Okay, so think about this for a second. You've got these two young fish, right, swimming along,
Mm-hmm.
and they meet this older fish who nods and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?"
Okay.
The young fish, they just keep swimming. Then, like a minute later, one looks at the other and asks, "What the heck is water?"
Right. It's that classic David Foster Wallace thing.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that little story, well, it's kind of the core of our deep dive today. We're exploring something so fundamental, so all around us, that it's actually really hard to even see it.
The choices we make about what we think about and how.
Yeah, precisely. The choices about how we think.
It's interesting, isn't it, that the thing that literally sustains us, our environment, can just become invisible
Hmm.
because it's always there.
We just stop seeing it, stop
Mhm.
questioning.
Uh-huh.
And look, that might sound a bit, I don't know, abstract, especially for you listening right now.
Hmm.
You're probably here because you value knowledge. You want to understand things like efficiently.
Right. You're
Yeah.
actively thinking.
So when you hear that old kind of cliche commencement speech line about education teaching you how to think, maybe part of you rolls your eyes a bit. Like, come on, obviously I know how to think.
Sure, I'm doing it right now.
Yeah. But that's really the jump-off point, isn't it? If you're already thinking, what's the real goal of, well, a true education?
It's not just about having the machinery, the capacity to think. It's actually about the choice. The choice of what you point that thinking towards. That's the surprising bit.
Right. The fish have the capacity to swim, sure.
Yeah.
But understanding the water, that's a choice of where to focus.
Exactly.
And to really drive home how differently we can see the exact same thing uh, based on our own internal maps. Think about this other parable.
Okay.
Imagine, like this tiny bar way up in Alaska. You've got a deeply religious guy and a really hardcore atheist.
Yeah.
They've had a few drinks, they're
A
arguing.
classic setup.
Totally.
Mhm.
And the atheist tells this story about getting caught in a massive blizzard. Lost, freezing, totally desperate. So desperate he actually, like, cries out to God for help.
And the religious person immediately says,
Uh-huh. Proof.
Mm.
You asked, God answered, you survived.
makes sense from that perspective.
But the atheist just shakes his head, says, no, that wasn't it. Just happened that a couple of Eskimos came wandering by and showed me the way back.
Right. So typically we'd just say, okay, two different worldviews, both interpretations kind of fit within their own logic.
Yeah, we just leave it there. But what often doesn't get asked, and what we're really digging into is, where do those basic belief systems even come from?
Are they automatic? Like just installed?
Or is there some choice involved, some, conscious decision in how we actually build meaning out of,
Yeah.
well, everything that happens?
Exactly. Is our basic orientation just hardwired, or is it something we actively choose, or at least can learn to choose? How we interpret things, find meaning. It might actually be a decision.
Which brings us to this idea of the default setting.
Okay.
So let's unpack that. The core idea is that our natural state, our unexamined way of experiencing everything, is profoundly self-centered.
And it's important to say, this isn't like a moral judgment, right? It's not about being selfish in a bad way.
No, not at all. It's just, well, it seems to be how consciousness works.
Okay.
At its base level, everything comes through the filter of me.
Well, think about it. Your own thoughts, your feelings, they're immediate. They're just there. You're annoyed or happy or whatever.
Right? Undeniably real.
But other people's feelings, their thoughts, that's always mediated. You have to guess, interpret from what they say, what they do. It's secondhand information.
You are absolutely the star of your own movie, 100%.
Always.
And the thing is, people who seem to handle life well, the ones we might call, well-adjusted,
Mm-hmm.
they're often the ones who figured out how to tweak that setting, how to intentionally shift away from just their own immediate viewpoint.
Which kind of raises a question about intellect, doesn't it? Because you'd think being smart would help.
You would, and it can. But there's a trap, especially maybe in like academic settings, over-intellectualizing everything.
Getting lost in the analysis.
Yeah. Lost in thought, analyzing the analysis, and meanwhile, you're disconnected from what's actually happening right now, outside you and even inside you.
It's surprisingly difficult, isn't it, to just stay present, alert and attentive to that inner chatter without getting swept away by it.
It really is. That inner monologue just runs and runs, and maybe we don't fully grasp the stakes involved in not learning to manage it.
So when we talk about learning how to think, what we're really getting at is gaining some control, some agency over that internal noise.
Consciously choosing what gets your attention and how you frame things, how you construct meaning from experience.
Cultivating that awareness, basically.
And if you don't cultivate it, if you don't make those choices, well, the source material we're drawing on is pretty blunt. It says you risk ending up, quote, totally hosed.
Oof, strong words.
Yeah. Feeling essentially dead inside while you're still walking around, a slave to your own head, basically.
It's that old saying, isn't it? The mind is an excellent servant, but a terrible master.
Yeah. Exactly. Take it to a really serious conclusion. The text even draws a line to the tragedy of suicide, suggesting that for some, this internal death comes first.
That's sobering. And the implication is that a real education, maybe especially something like the liberal arts, should help you avoid that, help you navigate adult life without being run ragged by that default self-centeredness.
Right. Which might sound kind of heavy, but let's bring it right down to the everyday grind.
Okay. Because it's not always about existential crises.
No. Think about something incredibly ordinary. Like you've had a long, hard day at work, you're tired, maybe stressed out. All you want is to get home, eat something, just unwind.
Yep. Know that feeling.
But shoot, the fridge is empty.
Yeah.
So now you've got to get in the car, drive to the supermarket, and it's rush hour.
The worst.
So the traffic is awful, just stop-start misery. Then you get to the store, and it's chaos. Bright fluorescent lights buzzing, horrible music playing.
Packed with people who all seem to be moving in slow motion.
Exactly. You're dodging carts, trying to find things in crowded aisles. Then you finally get to the checkout, and the line is like a mile long.
And the cashier gives you that dead-eyed, have a nice day.
Right. You wrestle the cart back, navigate the parking lot, and drive home in more traffic, surrounded by giant SUVs.
Okay, yeah. Painfully relatable. That's a pretty standard dose of adult life frustration right there.
And the key point here is that these moments, these boring, frustrating, seemingly meaningless routines, this is exactly where the choice of how to think matters most.
Because your mind isn't just blank during all that. It's working.
It's working overtime. And if you don't consciously choose how it works, that default setting just clicks right in. Yeah. So what does that look like, that default reaction?
Well, it's almost always going to be about me, my hunger, my fatigue, my desire to just be done with this.
Yeah.
And everyone else, they just become annoyances, obstacles in my path. You start judging people, right? Look at that idiot blocking the aisle. Why is that person talking so loud on their phone?
Total irritation. Feeling put upon, resentful that your day is being made even worse by all these other people just existing around you.
Or maybe you go a slightly different route, but it's still self-referential.
How so?
You get angry about the traffic planning, or you judge the gas-guzzling SUVs, or you think about how wasteful consumer culture is.
Ah, right. The slightly more socially conscious, but still kind of self-righteous anger.
Exactly. Those thoughts might be valid on some level, but the feeling behind them is still often frustration or annoyance rooted in your values, your inconvenience.
And what's striking is how automatic it feels, how easily those judgments pop up.
Zero effort required. It's just the brain on autopilot, assuming my experience is the center of the universe.
But then this is the whole point. There are other ways to use your mind in that situation, other ways to think about it.
It's possible to choose a different lens.
Yeah. Like in that traffic jam.
Yeah.
Maybe the person in that huge SUV just feels safer in it because they were in a bad wreck last year. Maybe that person who cut you off isn't a jerk. Maybe they're frantically trying to get to the hospital.
Or in the supermarket line. Maybe the other people are just as tired and stressed as you are. Maybe they're dealing with stuff you can't even imagine. Serious stuff.
It takes work, though, doesn't it,
Yeah.
to make that mental shift?
Oh, absolutely. It takes conscious effort, discipline. Some days you just won't have it in you, and that's okay too. But realizing it's a choice you can make. That's the crucial bit.
Even like the example used in the source. You see someone who looks really unpleasant. Say, this fat, dead-eyed, over-made-up lady yelling at her kid in the checkout. The default is instant judgment.
Sure, easy to write her off.
But
All right.
what if she's been up for 3 days straight with a sick husband? What if he works a brutal job, maybe even at that same store, and she actually helped your grandma figure something out last week?
It might not be likely, but it's possible. There are other realities besides your first impression.
And operating on that default setting, it just blinds you to those possibilities. You get convinced your snap judgment is the whole story.
Whereas learning how to actually think, how to direct your attention consciously, it opens you up. It allows for other interpretations.
And that, right there, that's where real freedom starts to emerge. The freedom to decide what has meaning for you.
So even that horrible supermarket trip.
Yeah, even that can be experienced differently. Maybe not fun, but meaningful. Like you could choose to see it as a moment of shared human experience, maybe feel some empathy, or just observe it with a different kind of awareness.
And the point isn't even whether that feeling of connection is, like, objectively true in some grand sense.
Right. The power is in your ability to decide how you're going to try and see it, how you interpret your world.
Which leads pretty naturally into this other big idea, the concept of worship.
Okay. And again, this isn't necessarily about church or religion in the formal sense.
No, it's more fundamental. The idea is that in daily life, you're always worshiping something. You're always directing your attention, your energy, assigning ultimate value to something. There's no neutral ground.
So you don't get to choose whether to worship.
Exactly. The only choice you have is what to worship.
And the argument here is pretty clear. If you choose to worship things like money or possessions,
Or your own body, or beauty, or power.
or even your own intellect, being the smartest person in the room,
The argument is that these things will inevitably let you down. They'll chew you up and spit you out. You'll always feel like you need more. You'll feel insecure, never quite satisfied.
and the really sneaky part is how these kinds of worship often become our default settings without us even realizing it.
They operate unconsciously,
Yeah.
shaping what you notice, how you judge value in yourself and others, all happening beneath the surface.
You just gradually start filtering reality through that lens.
And if you look at the real world around us,
Mhm.
culture often pushes us that way, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. It reinforces those defaults.
Yeah.
Through advertising, media, just the general vibe,
Yeah.
promoting fear, maybe contempt, frustration, endless craving, this focus on self.
We've definitely built a world that gives us incredible freedom in one sense, the freedom to be comfortable, autonomous, the king or queen of our own little skull-sized kingdom.
Totally. But the suggestion is that there's another kind of freedom,
Mm.
a much more important kind.
Yeah, a deeper freedom. And it's not about just doing whatever you want or being left alone. It's the freedom that comes from, well, attention, awareness,
Discipline, effort.
and the ability to genuinely care about other people, to sacrifice for them maybe in small, unsexy, everyday ways.
And that really is what it means to be taught how to think. That's the real goal.
The alternative being this unconsciousness,
Yeah.
being stuck on the default setting.
Yeah. The rat race, as they call it. Constantly chasing something, but with this nagging feeling that something vital is missing.
So wrapping this up, the takeaway isn't some kind of preachy moral lesson. It's not about becoming a saint.
No. It's much more practical. It's about how to navigate the day in, day out reality of being an adult without feeling, without feeling dead inside.
It's about consciously choosing what you pay attention to and how you construct meaning from it all, even the boring, annoying stuff.
Keep that fish story in mind. Remember the water.
And remember, those Eskimos and the blizzard people might be much more complex than they first appear.
Cultivating this awareness, this ability to choose, it's hard work, no doubt about it.
It really is day in, day out.
But that effort, that ongoing process of questioning your own defaults, that's what a real education is for. It's like the job of a lifetime, and it starts right now.
So maybe, just for today, pick one little thing, something totally mundane in your routine, and just ask yourself, okay, what are some other ways I could see this? What might be going on here that I'm not seeing?
What am I unconsciously choosing to value right here, right now? Just try it. See what happens.